right, welcome back everybody for episode 2 of Dangerously Delicious. With me, your host, the Chubby Hubby. So today, one of my favorites, the macaron. Not to be confused with the macaroon. Everybody has some feeling or way about that, but remember the macaroon is a coconut-based cookie, and it's like this big lump. It comes out of Hawaii. It's very tropical type of cookie. The macaron is a French dessert. It's actually spelled macaroon in France, so it can be confusing. But today we're gonna do macarons. So remember, macarons consist of two parts, right? We've got the cookie, the shell, and we've got the filling. So today we're gonna show you both. Now, conveniently enough, with the macaron, today, just like I did last time, I had to pre-make some because the macarons take a while and you wouldn't be able to get into the cookie fast enough to be able to decorate. It wouldn't cool, we wouldn't be able to take it off, and it wouldn't bake in the amount of time we need. So I pre-made some. However, the ones I pre-made did not go as planned. They turned out great. They're delicious. They're a gorgeous cookie. However, I was trying to give them a color, which we're going to do today. And for any of you artists out there, you know that brown and blue creates gray. So, as a pastry chef, like I said last week, one of the things that we pay to go to school for is to learn how to adapt. So what I ended up doing is making some tombstones and do it that way so we can decorate them as tombstones and make a kind of a Halloween-y dessert. I know it's a little early for Halloween, but it turned out pretty cool. So we'll show you guys that as we get going. So to get started, back to ingredients. We're going to start with egg whites. So egg whites we're going to whip. We're going to gradually add in some sugar, and we're going to whip those to a stiff peak. We're going to add the sugar at about soft peak. So it needs to get nice and foamy before we decide to add that sugar. And as it does, that's what we call soft peak, we'll start gradually just sifting that sugar in. And this is just granulated sugar. So we're going to keep this going. And I have this recipe too. My full recipe makes 40 cookies. So I told my wife, I don't think we need 80 cookies since I made 40 yesterday. I don't think we need 80. So I cut this down in half. So hopefully it'll get us a solid 20, but we'll see. So right now, all I'm doing is getting this nice and foamy. I want to make sure that these egg whites get really light, and then they can handle that sugar before we add it. So we're getting ready. And anyone that's whipped egg whites, you know, this actually does not take that long. Typically, in the meantime, when I'm making these, I'll sift my almond flour and my powdered sugar. But I already did that because I wanted to make sure I had everything ready. And one of those things is just like we talked about last time. It's called mise en place, everything in their place. That way we don't end up making something and not having the products we need. So we're nice and foamy. I'm going to add this sugar to the mixer. Going to make it nice and glossy and shiny. Super delicious. All right, all our sugar's added. So we're going to let that go. I typically take this off so I can see better. It's just a cover. So if you have powdered sugar, it doesn't spray all over the place. Or if it's really full bowl, right? We're going to get our nice trusty spatula. And as this goes to the stiff peaks, so part of the reason we want to sift this product is we're adding basically a really fine grain to this. And almond flour, if any of you have ever used almond flour, it usually has some granules in it. And so when we sift it, we're just getting the granules out, the really thick, chunky granules out of it. And then I sift it together with powdered sugar because, again, like we talked about last time, anytime you use powdered sugar, you have to sift it. Actually, when we talk about granulated sugar, right, we're talking about the levels that it has been processed down, sifted down. And so typically in the culinary world, when we refer to powdered sugar, it's called 10x because it's been refined 10 times the amount. So 10x sugar equals powdered sugar. So if you guys ever see a recipe and it calls for 10x, they're talking about powdered sugar just because it's been refined 10 times more than granulated sugar. So a little tip for you there. So it's getting there. We're almost there. For any of you guys that don't know stiff peaks, right? We talked about this last time when we were making the whipped cream. It should nice little scoop like a wave, and that peak at the top of that wave should not fall over. If it falls over, then you're not there yet. If it stands straight up, you're solid. So actually what I'm going to do is get a big bowl ready because we're going to have to fold in our ingredients. So we'll get a nice big bowl to fold in our dry ingredients and our egg whites. So I like to, midway through, give my bowl a scrape down. We're still about medium peak here. We're not quite there yet. But I always like to scrape it down and then get it going again. And we can get it up on the high speed here. Then again, it should be, even at this point, it should be nice and shiny, glossy. It should look delicious. You should want to lick this, but don't because it's raw egg. So we're almost there, and you'll start to see it, right? Like in the mixer, you'll start to see that it's holding its shape as it goes around. That's what we're looking for. And again, you can test it, once it starts to do that, you can test it every, 10 seconds, 30 seconds, whatever you feel like. We don't want to overmix it, right? We don't want eggs to separate. I'd say we are like 20 seconds from being there. It's looking great. Oh, you know what we're doing? Since we're 20 seconds, we're going to add food coloring. You don't have to add food coloring, okay? So food coloring is one of those things. We don't have to add this. It's not needed. I'm just doing it because I think it looks cool. But anytime you see them anywhere, you get them anywhere, they're always colored, right? Whether it's gel, very rarely, right, is it going to be fruit-based, but it could be. Like I have done red ones that were dehydrated raspberry powder, and then it gives it a lot of flavor too, so that's a good way to do it. But these are going to be blue, so there's not a lot of blue natural color out there. So just going to give it a couple drops. And this is like a neon, just blue food gel. It's going to be nice and bright. So now I'm just going to take this. You can see the blue on here, but I want to scrape the sides so it gets all of that blue, and we don't got all these streaks inside it. So I'm going to get this all scraped off. Give it another quick mix. And we should be solid. All right. Awesome. So you can see this is like a sky blue. It's actually really pretty. I don't know if you guys can see this. Let's see how close I can get to the camera. You guys see this color? Yeah, it sort of can see it. But it's a really sky blue color. I mean, it's super pretty. So hopefully that'll translate. It's going to get a little bit lighter because we're adding this to the powdered sugar. So obviously the light color of the powdered sugar and the almond powder is going to lighten it up, but it'll still look really nice. So the next thing we have to do here is we've got to fold the ingredients in. So typically when you fold in ingredients, we do them at a third at a time. Honestly, all we're trying to do is just get them all incorporated. The reason we do them so low, though, is because we want to make sure the fold's nice. We're going to get it all incorporated. Basically, all I'm doing here, when we say fold it in and we're not mixing it, you're taking kind of a slice down the middle, turning, and making sure you're getting that bottom of the container there when you do that. So the other thing we're doing is as we're mixing this, we're actually decompressing the air out of here. We don't want this to be airy. So you'll see one of the fun techniques is I'm going to slam these after we pipe them out. We're going to slam this against the counter gently slam, if there is a thing. And that's just to decompress any air bubbles, right? Because we don't want air bubbles on the top, otherwise it's going to come through on your cookie, and we don't want that. So when we bake these actually bake at 325 for about 12 to 13 minutes. They bake really nice. And again, remember the time, you can always go 10 minutes. Like if you have a really efficient brand new oven or something, you can really go with less time. But again, I do about 12 to 13 minutes, but always start less. You can add more later. So you'd see our mix is fully incorporated. That's all we were trying to do. So now, just like last time, we're going to get our handy dandy cup, piping bag, and piping tip. So what I did remember yesterday was, as I was doing it, I was like, I felt like I've made these not that long ago, but apparently it has been a little bit, because I used this giant piping tip and it was a mistake. So it just came flying out of the bag. Because this stuff it's not like it's super tight. It's not a super tight dough, right? This is actually pretty loose. So again, we're just taking, again, this is a 16-inch piping bag. We're going to add this deep down into our cup, and we're just going to fill this guy up. So typically, a good tip for anyone doing these on their first go around, what I would recommend and suggest is that you prep your parchment paper, or if you have like mold or something. I mean, I always recommend parchment paper if you've never done this before. But what I do is, to get like really consistent product, what I'll do is I will take like a shot glass. It's a perfect size, right? Because these should be about the size of a quarter, slightly bigger. Shot glass is a great size. Put it on a piece of parchment, take a pencil, and make circles, right? That'll keep all of your cookies the exact same size. If you then, what you're going to do is flip that parchment over, right? So then you're ready to rock and roll. You'll be able to see through the parchment, and then you can make them consistent. So I'm actually using the Silpat rubber mat, right? So with a Silpat rubber mat, I've done these enough. They're actually pretty consistent, so I don't really need to worry. But we're going to start the oven. It's going to go 325, like I said, and it'll go for about 12 to 13 minutes. The big thing we have to remember when doing this is when we pipe these have to sit. So actually, I probably could turn the oven off because these have to sit for about 25 to 30 minutes. And what they're doing is forming that really nice, smooth skin on top of it. And with that smooth skin on top, that's how you get that really shiny shell, that like really smooth, shiny shell. So that's why we're going to do that. So I'm going to grab my pan, and I'm going to come over that way so I can pipe so you guys can kind of see what I'm doing. So believe it or not, there's actually a technique to this. And you can see here's the Silpat, right? So there's actually a technique. So I'm trying to get this in the camera. So, and the reason there's a technique, and it's just with you're spinning this off as you pipe it. The reason there's a technique is because, again, it's a loose batter. So if you don't spin it off, it'll just keep flowing. So how we do this, straight down, make your quarter size, spin it, quick wrist action. 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 Spin it. And we're just doing like a little half turn to remove it. And again, this is, once you've done these enough, you get used to this. And also remember not to put them too close together because they will spread out a little bit as they sit. And after we bang this onto the counter, it will spread out a little bit. So this is a half batch that I made. So we're going to see how many cookies we get out of this. Again, remember too, there's two sides to each cookie. So even if it seems like you have a bunch of shells, you got 2 cookies per actual macaron, or 2 shells, if you will. So you're going to be here with a lot of shells. And this blue is really pretty. It turned out nice. A lot better than my gray ones yesterday that were intended to be blue. That turned out definitely, getting another sheet tray, guys. Definitely turned out to be gray, but again, we adapted and made them into tombstones, so they worked out. So again, have a couple of sheet trays ready. We'll post the recipe inside. We'll post them in the chat, or we'll post them in YouTube. We'll also have it there so you guys can see. But yeah, this yields, I mean, a decent amount. The other one is 40 cookies, so it's like 4 full sheet trays. And this is looking like it's going to get me right down to maybe this full one. We'll see. I love the color on these, though. Honestly, it turned out better than I was expecting. I didn't know how much, like, blue I really wanted it to be. I was like, do I want it to be darker? But I think this, like, sky-looking baby blue looks really nice. All right. That's it. So, the fun part. We're going to take these. I know you guys can't see, but when I'm doing this, I can see all these little tiny air bubbles pop up off the top. What it tells me is I didn't mush that, yes, the official term, mush the batter against the sides of that bowl enough to get the air out. And hey, everybody, thanks for joining too. Sorry, I haven't even said anything to anybody, but welcome everyone. Muriel, Robert, Bernard, Anna, Sandra, everyone on there. Welcome, guys. I appreciate that. Again, we're going to keep dropping this. Like I said, I know you guys can't see it. I'm wondering if you guys can see, there's like tiny air bubbles on those, right? This is, all we're trying to do is get them out. Otherwise, they're going to come out and not have that really smooth crust. So that's it. So now we're going to set a timer. And that timer is just to, it's for 30 minutes. And what that timer is going to do for us is, like I said, it's going to create that skin. Okay? So as we're creating that skin on there, that's what's going to give us that nice smooth top. So now that we've got that done, we'll let those sit for a half hour, and now we're going to work on the ones that I previously did, and we're actually going to just decorate these and show you guys kind of what that looks like, okay? So what I'm going to show you, I'm going to take some of the ones that I did, I'm going to show you the dessert that we're attempting to make, and I got funky with it and fancy with it. My wife likes to say bougie with it, so I wanted to do something fun I haven't done in a while, so I'll show you guys what this looks like. So, like we had talked about previously, one of the things that you have to do to make a full macaroon or a macaron is you've got to have a filling. Our filling is going to be a whipped ganache. So in order to do our whipped ganache, I actually pre-made the ganache. And the reason is it has to chill for a bit before you actually can whip it. Otherwise, it won't whip into a nice pipeable filling. And there's actually multiple types of ganache, right? So have you guys, and I'm sure each of you guys have seen this, if you've watched a cooking show, if you've seen a cake done, if you bought a cake like this, actually they have a ganache glaze or glacé. And that's when you cover an entire cake and it's got that really shiny glaze on it. We do that with ganache. They've got what they call whipped ganache, which is what I'm doing today. And then we also have what we call candy ganache. So if you've ever had a truffle in your life, you have two different types of truffle ganache, right? So we have one where we roll them up, and those are, right, those are your candy. And then we have it where we'll pipe that ganache inside of maybe a nice chocolate shell. So in all of those ganaches, except for the glaze, are all made the exact same way, with the exception of the measurement of the cream and the chocolate. So all ganache is heavy cream, heavy whipping cream, and chocolate. That's all it is. When you do a glaze, they add corn syrup and butter, and that's to give it that really nice shine and make it have make it spreadable, right? But what it is just a measurement. So let's say I wanted to have a whipped ganache, which is what we did. We did 12 ounces of heavy whipping cream to 8 ounces of chocolate. If you wanted to say have a thicker, you're just going to do maybe a 1-to-1, right? You're going to have less cream than you do chocolate, and that's how you make the other. So a lot of times I'll do a 1-to-1, which would be like if I did 8 ounces of chocolate, I do 8 ounces of cream, and that's going to make a lot thicker ganache. So this ganache, I actually made it right before the show, so I don't know if it's honestly going to be ready, but we'll see. We're going to whip it up and see what happens. And then I'll show you guys kind of what we're trying to do. So I actually, to do the dessert we made, because I'm going with tombstones now, and actually I can bring those over. So these blue cookies that I was trying to do, these are what they look like cobblestones. You can see it up against my black shirt. They're gray. They turned out like cobblestones. So this unfortunate circumstance actually turned out pretty cool because now I'm using them as tombstones. And I'll show you guys. I actually finished the dessert so we could do some pictures and photos for you guys so you could see what the actual after effect looked like. So I can show you guys what that looks like. But that's what we're going to use. And then for our filling, we're going to do the whipped ganache. And then what I actually did is I made a double chocolate mousse, and then I made a spicy dark chocolate panna cotta. And if you've never had panna cotta, it's like a thicker mousse. It's got gelatin, think Jell-O, but a lot less gelatiny, right? So that's a panna cotta. So what I did is I actually made these graves, right? They look like graves, and I made worms out of the panna cotta, and then I made worms out of white and dark chocolate. So, and the white and dark chocolate ones are still cooling, so we'll see if those actually work too. So let's get with those, and we'll try this out here. So, we've got our mousse. Are prepared. I'll show you guys the worms. They look cool. I got this fancy mold. Super cool. I'll come up closer so you guys can see. And then we got our finished dessert. So we're going to show you all the different components. Oop, and easy way to make dirt, guys, other than like you can grind up Oreos or any chocolate cookie. I use these grain-free cookies like I did last time, crushed them up, and just add a small scoop of cocoa powder. I think it makes it look a lot more like natural dirt. You guys can see, right? I think this looks like natural dirt, but it's cookies, vanilla cookies, and cocoa powder. We've got our double chocolate mousse. And we're going to try. You can see kind of, these are the worms. I thought these were super cool. I was like, well, that's cool. So I'm using these as, just like you would do gummy worms in dirt cake, right? Like this is a upscale, fancy way to do dirt cups, right? So this is the adult version of dirt cups because these are not by any means, I would say kid-friendly just because they're spicy. So as you can see, I was able to pull one out, and this is what they turned out like. So it's a cool looking worm. So we're going to put those on our thing. We're going to put one on here, on one that's already finished, and I'll show you guys what these look like. So here's our finished product, and that's what we're going to assemble right now so you guys can see. But that's what it looks like. So it's got our tombstone with our RIP on it. It's got our mousse, our crumb, and our panna cotta and white and dark chocolate worms here. So ready to rock and roll. So we're going to put this one away, and we're going to assemble our next one. So I feel like when you have this, like if you're going to have a gravesite situation here, you've got to have the worms, you know, like dug in, right? Because you can't like have them just hanging out on top, because worms are never just hanging out on top. So we're going to dig some of these in, like just dig them into the mousse here. Yeah, just shove them down in here. And then we'll add the dirt part on top. And it's cool, I actually have like a half one, so it can look like half, you know, the body's dug in there. So now, those are all dug in, you guys can see, right? Worms in. I know it feels weird. Feels weird to say worms in a dessert, but here we are. All right, so now I'm going to get a spoon. We're just going to get a nice easy spoon, and all I'm going to do is scoop this, right? I'm going to scoop this right onto our product here. It's got to look like dirt. You can afford to get messy. So again, all this is, like I said, it's just vanilla cookies and a little scoop of cocoa powder. This is also going to be super chocolatey, so hopefully you all like chocolate, because this is chocolatey. All right, so we got that covered. So now, as you guys can see, I know I keep coming up so you guys can see it. We're nice and covered. Nice even layer. So next thing we're going to do is take one of our prepared cookies. So what I actually fill this one with, and I did these just as an example. This is our tombstone. This is what we're going to make with the other ones, right? So there's our tombstone. Oh, there we go. Great picture. So that's what our tombstones look like. All it is, for the RIP, all I did was use some melty candies, right? So chocolate dipping melty candies. I melted those, put them in a piping bag, and just piped that out. And then the filling in these is actually a raspberry jam with a dark chocolate. So all I like to do, because these got to get down in here, just scooch this out of the way a little bit. Kind of spread this out evenly. And there's our next thing. So, again, another finished product. And this will, I mean, again, guys, perfect. And this, again, guys, remember, this will yield, like, this. I mean, I could eat this. Again, I'm the chubby hubby for a reason. I could eat this whole thing. But for sure, this is a two-person dessert. You might just have to fight over who gets the tombstone macaron. But it is a two-person dessert. However, we'll do our filling. So I think one of the cool things about macarons is you have that ability to make really any filling, any flavors, really whatever you want. And so it kind of makes it real nice to be able to just say, hey, today I'm going to do a chocolate one. Tomorrow I want lemon. Tomorrow I want, one of the ones that I did for a friend is I did raspberry with a Pinot Noir. Again, very adult, right? Like we added wine to the raspberries and that was a filling. Turned out amazing. One of the other ones I did for a friend, I've done espresso chocolate. I've done bacon truffles, like add bacon to it. You know, the salty and sweet is really good. You can add rum or brandy to it, right? Or scotch. You want to do that for your chocolate. You want to maybe just do lemon, or maybe you want to do pistachio, right? There's tons of things you can do here. So we'll see if this is cool enough. One of the other things to adapt is, we're going to use this bowl here. One of the other ways you can adapt, if it's not cold enough, if you wanted to, what you could do is add whipped cream. And then essentially you're making a mousse, right? So we absolutely can do that. We'll see if we need to. I'm hoping this will whip up light enough for me. I'm going to do a quick, this got some powdered sugar in it, but I'm going to do a quick wipe of this bowl. and then we're gonna whip this up. So we'll see what this looks like. So the other thing to remember, and I know I'm off screen here, guys, but another thing to remember is that next week, and what I want to talk about is next week, I will actually not be cooking live. I will actually be joined, though, by a guest. His name is Chris Hennessy. If you're not following Chris Hennessy, you're missing out. The dude is hilarious. He's got enough experiences to top like 4 people's lifetimes. Chris is an absolute guru when it comes to all things live streaming. So I'm actually going to have Chris on the show. We're going to talk about food and desserts and Chris's business and really just trying to support those local and small businesses. So Chris will be our first guest on Dangerously Delicious. So tune in next week for that. It's going to be at the exact same time. But again, it's just going to be a one-on-one live. So we're going to just be chatting. And Chris is also a food lover, and I watched him, dude, I watched Chris make some food that was alive, that was just insane. So I'm super excited to get him on here. It's going to be awesome. So each week what we're going to try to do is maybe do 1 live stream here while I'm baking, maybe 2. We'll see how this goes. But I'll be kicking out videos no matter what of desserts every week. And then once a month, maybe twice a month, we'll have live streams with a guest. So like I said, definitely stay tuned. And like I said, you guys are in for a real treat with Chris Hennessy. The guy is awesome. So we're going to whip this up. All we're trying to do is make this like a frosting, right? Like as ganache cools down, it starts to solidify. So we'll see if this is cool enough. It might not be. I might have to add whipped cream to this and make it a different type of filling. Then it's like a mousse filling, which is also okay. I never mind folding in whipped cream, right? Like, ain't nobody gonna hate on that. Whoop, I turned that up too high. It shot everywhere. There's chocolate all over the counter now. I feel like, I don't know if any of you guys can relate, but like, I love cooking. I love baking. What I don't like doing is the cleanup afterwards. The cleanup is the worst. So it is thickening up a little bit. It's not pipe worthy yet, so we're gonna keep this going for a little bit because we gotta get it pipe worthy. Like I said, it should get thick to where you can pipe this just like whipped cream. You can pipe it like a frosting, almost like a buttercream consistency. But again, if it's not cold enough, it won't set up. Now all we're doing is really adding air to this. So I think what I'm gonna do is, because it's not setting up the way that I want, which is kind of what I was hoping. We'll see. We're going to add whipped cream. Make it super easy. Add some whipping cream to it, whip it up, fold it in. Honestly, we can add it directly to it. It's just whipping cream, heavy whipping cream. We're going to add this directly to it, and hopefully this will help us create some whipped, spreadable, pipeable top. You also could add melted chocolate. Melted chocolate would also be good. Oh, have a good one, Robert. Thanks for stopping by. So melted chocolate would just make this a thicker chocolatey one. So we're just going to keep this going. Make sure, essentially, we're making a chocolate whipped mousse here. Another thing you could do, even at this point, this is where you could add rum. You could add cinnamon if you want like a cinnamon chocolate. You could add chili powder here if you want a spicy chocolate. You could add all sorts of things. Raspberry if you want a fruit flavored chocolate. So we're almost there. This looks amazing. All right. So I think we're there, guys. This looks freaking amazing. So, I'm gonna take this, put some stuff away. And remember, you've got two sides to this, right? So one side is definitely gonna be, I usually will like lay them out on their backs and then fill those with our filling. And then that other side is going to be where I'm gonna pipe maybe a decoration on and do anything like that, right? So, yeah, Sandra. So what's so funny about this beater is that I have had this for stinking forever. I've had this for literally 17 years, 18 years, something like that. So this thing, it's been tried and true. I keep on like basically betting to myself when the motor's gonna die in this thing. But just a cheapo Emerald Professional is what it's called, is the brand. And dude, this has lasted forever. I love this thing. Makes it a lot better than doing it by hand. One of the stories, actually, I was telling my brother who does all my video stuff for me, I was telling him that one of the stories from when I was in school was that one of the tests that they have us do is you have to whip egg whites by hand. Let me tell you, if you want an arm workout, whip egg whites by hand. So what was so funny about the test is in order to know that you've done it right, because you had to get them to stiff peak, they do what they call the bowl test. And you have to take your bowl of whipped egg whites and put it over your head. And if it doesn't fall out, you've whipped them to stiff peak. If it does fall out, well, then you got egg all over you. So that's what we had to do in school before they would allow us to use the electric mixer. So it's kind of cool, but super fun. There was definitely people, if you're wondering, yes, there was definitely people that got the mixture falling on their head because they didn't whip it up. Because it's exhausting, dude. Like whipping that stuff by hand, like I could probably go for like 20 minutes to get it, enough to what I needed. So, Kevin asked, add rum. Yeah, Kevin, absolutely. So I love adding rum, scotch, brandy to, wine, coffee, like any really, definitely the alcohols, right? To any of these desserts. Great thing to do, especially to chocolate. Chocolate holds it really well. It really encompasses that flavor well. And chocolate marries really well into so many flavors, right? Whether it's fruit, alcohol, and it doesn't matter the type of alcohol. Like it just, it marries so well into so many flavors that absolutely add it to it. And definitely add bacon too. Bacon is a really good one. It provides a little bit of salt in there, so make sure they're nice and crispy. I like to add pieces of it, right? Like make them nice and crispy bacon, crush them all up, and then throw them in your ganache. Dude, it's phenomenal. So got to get a spatula for this. Actually, I'm gonna get a spoon, scoop it. So again, we could do, because I'm really doing these, we're piping them. They don't have to be like a certain level of perfection to pipe this in. I'm just using my hand instead of getting a cup. I also don't have a piping tip on this. I'm just going to cut the tip off. But you can see, look at how nice and thick this is. This is awesome. This is going to be amazing. So we're going to take this. Now we got our bag full, right? I leave the tip on until I'm ready to use it. what I'm going to do is get a little bit of a tray. A little bitty tray, maybe. Actually, even better. What I'm going to do is I've got a cooling rack here. And we're going to pick out 2 cookies that are similar in size. And we're going to lay one on its back and keep one for the front. So back, and I try to put them off to the side so I'm matching sizes. This will fill. This can stay here. I was also thinking, like, as I was making these look so much like cobblestones. And I was like, oh man, how cool would this be to make a dessert with these, right? Like a cake or something that uses cobblestones, or to get that effect. Now I know how to do it by by adding brown cocoa powder and blue food coloring will get me the desired color for this. So I'm not going to do every single one of these. I'll be here for days piping. I'm just going to do, I actually have, so you guys saw this container. I've got like 3 more of these. So I'm just doing some. All right. Because remember, because they're going into tombstones, they don't have to be perfect. Even my kids really wanted me to use like the cracked or broken ones. They were like, oh, that would be super cool effect, Dad. So we're going to use those. We're going to pipe these in here. So again, nice big bag. Take our scissors. Just cut off the end. Fill these as little as you want, as much as you want. I like to get a nice big heaping pile of this here. So and I have way more filling than I need, which is typical. Now, granted, if I was doing this filling, which I'm actually going to use it for the other ones too, so I actually am probably good on filling. But this will get me the ones that I have and all the ones we're going to bake today, because I'm going to throw these in the oven here. So if you guys have been watching the clock, we're about 30 minutes in, and this will give us our timing for our other ones to have formed their skin. All right, so there's our filling. I'm obviously have a ton more filling. I'm going to save this for these next ones for tomorrow. All we're going to do is take our matching ones, put them right on top. Now I'm like lost at which ones I put for which. Go figure. So again, these tombstones, like they're all different shapes. And what was so funny about it is like, it wasn't until I had piped, I want to say like, I don't know, maybe a dozen of these. And they were the gray color and they were rounds. They were round. And I piped like a dozen and I was like, you know what? These are gray. They do not look right, what I wanted. And then I was like, you know what? Screw it. I'm going to try to make some tombstones with the macarons. And they actually turned out pretty cool. So I'm going to throw these in the oven now. Again, they're going in 325, and they're going to be in for about 12, 13 minutes. So set them for 12, and we'll see what they look like at 12. And if I need to add another minute, I'll add another minute. So this is the first part of our macaron, right? So we have our piped product over here. I actually have a bag of chocolate, and it's the candy chocolate that I used earlier. So all I'm going to do is warm this up slightly, and that'll be able to allow me to pipe on here so we can do those RIPs. So I'm going to stick this on our plate here. Get these going. We'll do our, get this in the microwave really quick, so I'll be off camera. But I'm going to get this heated up. We'll pipe our RIP, and then we'll be done. So again, when it comes to like warming up the melted chocolate, like you can do it over a double boiler. You absolutely can do it in a microwave, but if you do it in a microwave, just make sure you're doing them at like 30-second intervals or something. So it probably needs another 30. Yeah, Sandra, I will absolutely throw the mousse recipe in here as well. I'll make sure that I get all the recipes to my brother who's doing all the video, and we'll make sure we get them added so you guys have them. So we're almost there with the chocolate. Again, so the one thing about piping is that there's two ways you can do it. I'm doing this with chocolate just because I had it. But you can also, a lot of people will pipe with royal icing because it hardens up pretty quick and it can do really, really pretty and fine lines. So royal icing is a good option for any time you're piping decorations, but I'm just using chocolate. So what we have is our melted chocolate. So what I'm actually going to do is put it into another piping bag, which I had sitting out for this purpose. The reason I'm doing it is the other one, it just exploded at the bottom. And because this is such a fine, we're piping this such a fine little lines, I want it to be a really, really, really tiny and small cut. So we'll push these off to the side. We'll remove some of our product, and our filling we're going to leave here because I'm going to pipe this all back in. So here, I'm really just going to be taking the tiny, tiny, tiny little tip. I'm talking like 1/16 of an inch off the end, just enough to get a stream. So I'm just cutting over here to see if I can get that stream. Sweet. All right, so I got one. So now, see if I can turn this way. Maybe. We'll try it like this. We're just going to go RIP right up at the top of these tombstones. And the reason you can use these or really any tempered chocolate is it'll get hard pretty quick, and so it'll stay really nice. Got one. Yeah, I hope you guys like this too. I hope this was useful. If you've ever wanted to test out your macaron skills, or you ever just wanted to make macarons and maybe you were too nervous to do it, you always hear people say, oh, macarons are so hard to do, right? Like they can be if you don't know the technique. And I think once you learn the technique, you get used to doing it, I think they get a lot easier, right? So that's what I was trying to show you guys today, is show you, just the technique and how to do this properly. Show you guys, what it looks like and just how to do it for yourself at home, right? Please, though, follow me on Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, wherever you're at, and feel free anytime, message me, and I'll be happy to guide you through your recipes if you have questions. Happy to help you out even with these recipes. I know for those of you that are overseas, right, in the UK or otherwise, some of these calculations, if you need me to do the calculations for you, I can do that. So that way they translate over. But most of my recipes are weighed. So very few of them are not weighed. So it should translate because I do use grams for most of them. Some have ounces, but most of them are in grams. So it should translate over as far as those go. The only thing that would have to go, that would have to be translated through would be the temperatures for the oven. All right, guys, so that's it. We got our piping done. As you can see here, we had our nice RIP on our cookies. Our nice front RIP tombstone macarones here. And like I said, these will actually crisp up pretty quickly. That RIP will. And then we will get these put right into our thing there. But, you know, these, unfortunately, this one decided that it looked really good. So I was like, you know what? I think I'm going to try this one. Oh my gosh. This is amazing. This is what you're looking for. I know my camera guy is sitting over here and he's like, dude, yes, hook me up with that. I will. Hey, it's the benefit of being the camera guy. I will give you any dessert that I make. Hopefully, one day, if we get enough of you guys that want to do this, you guys can come and visit, or we can have a kitchen somewhere, right? And I can make this for everyone. I know Christine, if she's on, always asking me to ship stuff to her, and I wish that I could. I just don't think some of these would keep. But man, this is what it's about. A double dark chocolate mousse. We've got a cocoa-filled cocoa vanilla macaron with a dark chocolate piping chocolate on top. Whew. I do feel like I died and went to heaven. I know. My wife was making fun of me. She said my laugh isn't good when I'm laughing at myself, at my own dad jokes and my own bad puns. But listen, we talked about being dangerously delicious, and we made tombstones. And come on, you know I'm going to make a joke about dying and going to heaven if I'm going to eat a tombstone. Who wouldn't? I'm telling you right now, this is one of the best macarons I think I've ever had. It is crispy, chewy. Let's see if I can show you guys. It's hard to zoom it in, but it should be crispy. You can see on the bite. It's all crispy, and then it's nice and chewy in the center. And that chewy in the center is what you're looking for. That's how you know you didn't overbake it. Otherwise, they're really crunchy. But that's how you're going to know that you didn't overbake it. So yeah, guys, absolutely. It was such a pleasure having all of you guys here. I think we even have like 5 minutes left. But that's where we're at, guys. You guys have any questions for me while we're waiting? Please throw them in the chat. I know that some of you probably wonder I made that dark chili chocolate worms, right? The panna cotta. So part of the reason I made them is my wife had been asking me for a while now to make her this. She wanted a spicy, really spicy, like knock your socks off, it hits you with heat chocolate, and she actually wanted pot de creme, but I thought she said panna cotta, so that's why I made the panna cotta. And what you do with that is, when you're making panna cotta, it's very similar to like a ganache. The difference is you're adding, instead of just cream and chocolate, you're also adding gelatin, right? And then what I did was, I do what they call a heat infusion, right? And the heat infusion is I put cayenne pepper inside the milk or inside the cream, and as it starts to heat up, that heat draws in all that flavor, right? That's a heat infusion. Heat infusions are actually preferable. We have cold infusions and heat infusions. Heat infusions will actually take that flavor a lot faster. So if you're ever wondering, like, dude, how did they make this taste like coffee, right? But there's no coffee in it, right? Well, essentially, they brew the coffee with a heat infusion inside that cream or in that milk. So when any time I make a coffee flavored anything, I will take either whole bean, which is what I prefer to use, or we'll take grounds, but I prefer to use whole bean, any flavor you want. So like a hazelnut coffee bean is really nice. Put that in our cream, especially when I'm making ganache. And we'll, as that cream is heating to pour over our ganache, that will take all that flavor in. So that heat infusion will take all that flavor. So a cold infusion is just like it sounds. It just takes way longer for a cold infusion. If I wanted to do the same thing, all I would do is put those, I'd measure out my cream that I needed. I put the coffee beans whole inside the cream, and I'd store them in a sealed container overnight. And I'd let them sit. Essentially, it's like a cold brew. So you let it sit overnight, and that's going to draw in all that flavor. So what I did was draw in the flavor by the heat infusion with cayenne pepper, and I made a guess, right? Like I was just like, you know what? I don't know how this is gonna be. I know my wife, man, she preferred it to be ghost peppers. Like she wants it so spicy. But I couldn't find ghost peppers at the store. Go figure. The hottest ones I could find were the cayenne. Um, and so I went with the cayenne. And I will tell you, I tried this panna cotta, and whew, it hits you, right? The back of the throat, that really spicy, you know you've eaten something spicy back of the throat, and it hits you pretty well. So it turned out really good. So actually, it looks like we're going to check on these really quick. I'm going to wash my hands, and we're going to pull these out and see what they look like. I also had to eat the rest of that cookie, obviously. All right. So, I'll try and show you guys here in a second. So some of them had too much air in them. Some of them did not. And too much air, when you get too much air, and I'll show you how you know, is when you have too much air, they crack. This is what they should look like. We're going to try and zoom in and make it nice and clear for you guys. You see that? They've got the legs on them, which is that bottom piece, and they're nice and smooth tops, no cracks, no breaks. That's how you know we did that right. These ones, right, it shouldn't be brown on the top, so it looks like a couple got it. And if we show you these ones, you can see some of these are cracked, right? They got too much air. So again, we're also making so many of these that you don't have to worry. And when you do it on parchment, one of the pro tips that I have for you guys is if you do these on parchment, you want to wait, first of all, wait till they cool completely before taking them off of the actual silpat. Otherwise, they'll just rip apart. Once they cool, you'll be able to peel them off in 2 seconds. If you use parchment, pro tip for you, all you got to do is take a little bit of water in, say, like a measuring cup or something, lift your paper a little bit, and just pour it underneath, and that steam will push them all off. So it's actually a little pro tip for you guys for taking those apart. So Anna, they're all actually blue. It just, in the camera, they look yellow, but they're all just blue. They should all, I mean, if you're here, they're all blue. They're like a light sky blue color, but some of them maybe have gotten a little darker. So, but yeah, they're all blue. And the flavor is just vanilla. So all of those are vanilla flavored. But yeah, guys, that's it. That's what we got for you. Thank you so much for coming. Remember to stop by next week as we do have Chris Hennessy joining us live. We're going to talk about all things food, all things dessert, his business. So please come back and join us for another episode next week. And also follow us on all social media. Start hitting up our Instagram because that's where all our photos are going to go. And then see our final product of these blue ones as well, as I'm going to do a different look for these as well. So they're going to be chocolate dipped with nuts. So definitely come back and see us again. And thank you all so much for joining us today on our second episode of Dangerously Delicious. Take care.